When we think of serial killers, most of us imagine men. But throughout history, there have been women who committed some of the most chilling and deadly crimes. These women may not fit the typical profile of a serial killer, but their actions were just as terrifying. Today, we will explore the stories of some of the deadliest female serial killers in history. Our first story takes us back to the 16th century, to a place now known as Slovakia. Elizabeth Báthory, also known as the Blood Countess, was born in 1560 to a noble family. She was a powerful woman, married to a war hero, and lived in a grand castle. But behind the castle walls, something truly horrifying was happening. Elizabeth Báthory was accused of torturing and murdering hundreds of young girls over a period of 20 years. It is said that she believed bathing in their blood would keep her young and beautiful. While the exact number of her victims is unknown, some estimates suggest she may have killed as many as 600 girls. The truth about Elizabeth's crimes came to light when several witnesses testified against her. In 1610, she was arrested and found guilty. However, because of her noble status, she was not executed. Instead, she was sentenced to life imprisonment, where she was locked in a small room in her castle until she died 4 years later. Elizabeth Báthory's story has become a legend, and she is often called one of the most prolific female serial killers in history. Her name has even been linked to the vampire myths, due to her gruesome acts involving blood. Whether the stories about her are entirely true or exaggerated, Elizabeth Báthory remains a figure of horror in the annals of history. Next, we move to the United States in the late 20th century, where one of the most infamous female serial killers carried out her deadly spree. Aileen Wuornos was born in 1956 in Michigan, into a troubled and abusive family. Her life was marked by tragedy and hardship from a young age. By the time she was a teenager, she was homeless and surviving through prostitution. Between 1989 and 1990, Aileen Wuornos murdered 7 men in Florida. She lured them with promises of sex, then shot them at point-blank range. Aileen claimed that she killed these men in self-defense, saying they had tried to rape her. However, the evidence suggested that her actions were premeditated, and she was later found guilty of murder. Aileen's case gained widespread media attention, and she became the subject of numerous documentaries, books, and even a Hollywood movie titled Monster, where actress Charlize Theron portrayed her. The film shows Aileen's troubled life and the events that led her to become a serial killer. In 2002, Aileen Wuornos was executed by lethal injection, becoming one of the few women to be executed in the United States for serial murder. Her story raises questions about the cycle of abuse and how it can sometimes lead to violent behavior. Aileen Wuornos is often seen as a tragic figure, but her crimes remain a chilling reminder of the darkness that can exist within us. Our next story is about a woman who seemed sweet and caring on the outside, but harbored a deadly secret. Nannie Doss, also known as the Giggling Granny, was born in 1905 in Alabama. She was known for her cheerful demeanor and her love of romance novels. But behind her pleasant exterior was a woman capable of terrible deeds. Nannie Doss is believed to have killed 11 people over a period of nearly 30 years, including 4 of her husbands, her mother, her sister, her grandson, and her mother-in-law. She would often use poison, slipping it into her victims' food or drink. Her reason? Nannie claimed she was searching for the perfect romantic partner, and when her husbands failed to meet her expectations, she got rid of them. Her crimes went undetected for years, partly because of her friendly personality and the fact that she moved frequently. However, in 1954, after the death of her 5th husband, doctors became suspicious and performed an autopsy, discovering traces of arsenic in his body. Nannie was arrested and eventually confessed to the murders, all while smiling and laughing, earning her the nickname the Giggling Granny. Nannie Doss was sentenced to life in prison, where she died of leukemia in 1965. Her story is a grim reminder that sometimes the most dangerous people are those who hide behind a mask of kindness. Our next story takes us to Mexico, where a woman named Juana Barraza became one of the most notorious female serial killers in the country's history. Born in 1957, Juana had a difficult childhood, marked by abuse and neglect. She grew up to become a professional wrestler, known in the ring as La Dama del Silencio, or the Lady of Silence. But outside the ring, Juana Barraza was hiding a dark secret. Between 1998 and 2006, she murdered at least 42 elderly women in Mexico City. Juana would gain the trust of her victims by pretending to be a government worker or a nurse, offering them help. Once inside their homes, she would strangle them to death, often using items like a stethoscope, a scarf, or a phone cord. Juana's motive for these killings was believed to be rooted in her traumatic past. She hated her mother, who had sold her to a man when she was a child, and she projected this hatred onto her elderly victims. The media dubbed her La Mataviejitas, or the Old Lady Killer. Juana Barraza was eventually caught in 2006 after being seen leaving the home of her last victim. She was sentenced to 759 years in prison for her crimes. Juana's case shocked Mexico and brought attention to the often overlooked issue of elder abuse. Her story is a terrifying example of how deep psychological wounds can lead to horrific acts. Finally, we have the story of Dorothea Puente, a woman who preyed on the vulnerable and turned her home into a house of horrors. Born in 1929 in California, Dorothea Puente had a troubled childhood and a criminal past, including charges of fraud and theft. By the 1980s, she had reinvented herself as a sweet, caring landlady who took in elderly and disabled tenants. But behind her kind exterior, Dorothea was running a deadly scheme. She would cash her tenants' Social Security checks, and when they became suspicious or tried to leave, she would murder them. Dorothea's method was to drug her victims, suffocating them, and then burying their bodies in her backyard. Over the years, she killed at least 9 people, though some believe the number could be higher. Her crimes went unnoticed for years until 1988, when a social worker became concerned about a missing tenant. The police were called, and during their investigation, they discovered the bodies buried in Dorothea's backyard. She was arrested and charged with multiple counts of murder. During her trial, Dorothea Puente claimed that she was innocent and that her tenants had died of natural causes. However, the evidence against her was overwhelming, and she was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Dorothea Puente died in prison in 2011. Her story is a chilling reminder that evil can sometimes hide in the most unexpected places. Dorothea Puente took advantage of society's most vulnerable people, and her actions left a lasting scar on the community. These women committed some of the most horrifying crimes in history, proving that the capacity for evil knows no gender. If you found this video chilling, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Creepy Cinema for more tales of true horror.